Okay, ji. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is our lecture number 8. You are still in open channel flow. Today we are going to discuss the direct step method, which is also known as the step-by-step method. Okay, first of all, we will discuss the limitations of this method. These are the limitations. Number one, this method is applicable to the prismatic channels only. Okay, prismatic channels are the channels for which the cross-sectional area remains constant. So if the channel is non-prismatic, then another method known as standard step method is used, but that method is beyond the scope of our course content. So we will not discuss that. We will discuss only this method, which is applicable to the prismatic channels. Number two is the limitation as well as the importance or significance of this method. It is used to compute the water surface profiles for channels having gradually varied flow. So what are the water surface profiles? This is what we are going to discuss in our next class, inshallah. We will discuss in detail that what is the water surface profiles, how the water surface profiles are drawn, and what is the importance of the water surface profiles. But remember that this method is used to compute and to draw the water surface profiles. So in the next class, when we will discuss the water surface profiles, then we will use the advantage of this method, which we are going to discuss today. Remember, it is used for the gradually varied flow. Before midterm exam, we were discussing the uniform flow only, but now we are going to discuss the non-uniform flow. We know that there are two types of the non-uniform flow. One is known as the gradually varied flow, and other is known as the rapidly varied flow. So remember that this method is only for the gradually varied flow. This is the mathematical expression for this method. First of all, this is the figure which we also discussed in our first class. You can see that there are three types of the slope for non-uniform flow. This is the slope of the channel bed, this is the slope of the water surface, and this is the slope of the energy line between section 1.1 and section 2.2. Where at section 1.1 you can see that one is the datum head, y1 is the depth of the flow, and this is the velocity head, and y1 and velocity head is the combination of the specific energy. Similarly, here we have the datum head, depth of the flow, velocity head, head loss, and this is the specific energy. You can see that delta x is the distance between the two sections, that is section 1.1 and section 2.2, or you can say that delta x is the distance between the two depths of the flow, that is y1 and y2, and this is L. L is the length of the flow. So this is all about the figure. And now, before going to the derivation of this method, first of all, what we are going to do, we will derive an equation for the slope of the energy line. If you remember, we discussed initially when we were discussing the meaning equation that the slope in the meaning formula is actually the slope of the energy line. But for the uniform flow, since all the slopes are equal to each other, that is, slope of the channel bed is equal to slope of the water surface is equal to slope of the energy line. Therefore, for uniform flow in open channel, we replace slope of the energy line by the slope of the channel bed in meaning formula. Okay, but here, since this is the case of non-uniform flow, so we cannot replace the slope of the energy line by the slope of the channel bed in meaning equation. This will not be possible. We have to calculate the slope of the channel bed and slope of the energy line separately. Okay, practically slope of the channel bed is quite easy, because this is the geometric property of the open channel. When you are in a field, you can measure the slope of the channel bed. And how you will measure the slope of the energy line? You will measure it with the help of the meaning equation. Okay, you can see that slope of the energy line is between the section 1.1 and section 2.2. And remember that slope of the energy line is a kind of a curve. That's why we will take the average values of the section 1,1 and section 2,2. Here you can see, first of all, I have taken the mean velocity, that is V1 plus V2 divided by 2, where V1 is the velocity at section 1,1 and V2 is the velocity at section 2,2. Similarly, then you will take the mean hydraulic radius, and then you will use Manning equation to find the slope of the energy line. This is the Manning equation for the velocity of the flow, and you can see from this Manning equation I have got the value of the slope of the energy line. So this is your equation number 1. And now we will start the derivation for the direct step method. You will have to apply the energy equation between section 1,1 and section 2,2, that is Z1 plus Y1 plus velocity head is equal to Z2 plus Y2 plus velocity head plus head loss. And then you will simplify the equation, which is quite simple. You have to check it by yourself, the whole derivation. In case of any confusion or problem, we can discuss it in the next class. The derivation is quite simple. Yes, here you can see that slope of the channel bed is equal to Z1 minus Z2 divided by delta X. All these equations we have discussed in our first class. And here you can see that slope of the energy line is equal to head loss per unit length of the flow. And we have already discussed that if the channel slope is very, very small, then this L is approximately equal to delta X. So we have replaced this L by delta X, and we have got this equation number 3. Delta X is equal to E1 minus E2 divided by S minus S naught, where E1 is the specific energy at section 1,1, E2 is the specific energy at section 2,2, S is the slope of the energy line, which we will find with the help of the Manning equation, जैसे कि अभी हमने किया था, and this is the slope of the channel bed. So this is the equation which is used to find the horizontal distance between the two given depths of the flow. Okay, you have to check this derivation by yourself. And in this equation, okay, this is problem number 59 from your Franzini book. It is given that there is a rectangular channel for which the Manning roughness coefficient is 0.012, width of the channel is given, discharge is given, slope of the channel bed is given, and Y1 and Y2 is given. Y1 is 0.9 meter, Y2 is 0.75 meter. Okay, and it has been asked that what is the horizontal distance between these two depths of the flow, and whether this distance is upstream or downstream. So we have to find the distance delta X, and we have to find whether it is upstream or downstream. So how we will find delta X? With the help of this equation number 3. This is the equation with the help of which we will find the value of delta X. So I have drawn this figure. Let's suppose this is the channel, and I have supposed that Y1 is equal to 0.9 meter is at section 1,1, and Y2 is equal to 0.75 meter is at section 2,2. Okay, this is my assumption. Well, I don't know where Y1 is and where Y2 is. Maybe Y2 is here at the upstream, and Y1 is here at the downstream. I don't know at this moment, but let's solve the numerical problem and we will come to know whether our assumption is correct or wrong. So let's take a start. There are two methods to solve this numerical problem. We will discuss both the methods. This is method number 1. First of all, you will find all the parameters at section 1,1. Here you can see I have found the values of area, cross-sectional area at section 1,1, wetted perimeter, hydraulic radius, velocity, and specific energy. Similarly, you will find all these parameters at section 2,2, that is cross-sectional area, wetted perimeter, hydraulic radius, velocity, and specific energy. You will find all the values at section 2,2. And now, okay, then we will find the slope of the energy line by using the Manning equation. equation for which we have to take the value of the mean velocity, mean hydraulic radius, and then we will put in these values in the meaning equation to find the slope of the energy line. And then we will put all these values in the equation of this method, that is delta x is equal to E1 minus E2 divided by S minus S naught. We have found the value of E1, we have found the value of E2 and also S, and S naught is given. Okay, so putting all the values and we will get this result 319.76 meter. It is approximately 320 meters. Okay, so there are some conclusions at this point. Number one, you can see that what is the depth of the flow? 0.9 meter and 0.75 meter. The difference between these two depths of the flow is only 0.15 meter, a very small difference between the two depths of the flow. And what is the horizontal distance we found? The horizontal distance is 320 meters. So it means that the depth of the flow is decreased, or you can say the depth of the flow is changed by 0.15 meter over a horizontal distance of 320 meters. Horizontal distance is very, very long and vertical difference is very, very small. That's why this is known as the gradually varied flow. Okay. And also we have got the positive value for this distance. It means that our assumption is correct. And we have got the positive value for delta x, so our assumption is wrong. Let's suppose if you get the then it means get this kind of the curve. It means that the depth of the flow is increasing towards the downstream side, and we know that this is a situation when we have any kind of obstruction in our open channel. जी
मैम आपकी वॉइस लैग हो रही है.
कुछ
आपकी
पूछना है?
आवाज लैग हो रही थी मैम.
वॉइस लैग हो रही है मुझे थोड़ा सा ना, आज ये मेरा इंटरनेट का प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है. हाँ, यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा मेरा सिग्नल्स का प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है.
ये लास्ट पॉइंट समझ में नहीं आया हमें.
अब कहाँ से समझ में नहीं आया आपको?
ये लास्ट पॉइंट मैम जब आपने एक्सप्लेन किया कि हमारे पास ये ग्रेजुअली वेरिड फ्लो है बिकॉज ये हॉरिजॉन्टल ज्यादा डिस्टेंस कवर करता है और वर्टिकली बहुत कम, तो उसके बाद वाला पॉइंट से स्टार्ट
ओके ओके, इसको मैं दोबारा डिस्कस करती हूँ. ओके ओके, ठीक है, मैं आपको यही बता रही. ओके ओके okay, we have got the positive value of delta x means that our assumption is right. We have taken y1 at the upstream and y2 at the downstream. Okay, initially when I was starting the numerical problem, it was my assumption that y1 is at the upstream and y positive value of delta x. It means that my assumption is correct. Okay, but if I get the negative value for delta x, it means that my assumption is wrong. Y2 is actually at the upstream and y1 is at the downstream. Let's suppose if I get this value as delta x is equal to minus 320 meters, then you will say that your assumption was wrong, and this will be your actual figure. In this figure you can see that I have taken y2 at the upstream and y1 at the downstream. Okay, you can see that the depth of the flow is increasing towards the downstream side, and this is practically possible when we have any kind of obstruction in an open channel. For example, you have a weir, you have a dam, then you will get this kind of the flow profile. You will get this type of the curve. You can see that the depth of the flow is increasing towards the upstream side. So the question was, what is the horizontal distance between the two depths of the flow? Is this towards upstream or downstream? Since we have got the positive value for delta x, so we will say that the distance is downstream and our assumption is correct. So this was method number 1, and now we will move towards method number 2, which is the most reliable method. In this method, what we will do, you can see, first of all, look at this depth of the flow. We have to make this whole table, but first of all, look at the depth of the flow, the first column of this table. You can see that the given depth of the flow was this 0.9 meter and 0.75 meter. These two depths were the given depths of the flow. Okay, I have divided it into different depths of the flow. You can see I have taken 0.9, then 0.85, then 0.8, and 0.75. I have taken the intervals of 0.05 meter. So this is the maximum interval which you can take in this method. Smaller the interval, most accurate will be your results. You can take the intervals of 0.1 meter, you can take the intervals of 0.2 meter, 0.3 meter, but remember, not greater than 0.5 meter. Okay, here I have taken the maximum interval. And what does this means? If you look at this figure, I have taken these depths of the flow like this. Here I have 0.9 meter, here I have 0.85 meter, then 0.80 meter, and then 0.75 meter. And I will check what is the distance between each two depths of the flow. What is the distance between these two? What is the distance between these two depths of the flow? And what is the distance between these two depths of the flow? So how I have to solve this numerical problem, or how I have to fill this table? You can see that here we have the depth of the flow, here we have the velocity, specific energy, mean velocity, hydraulic radius, mean hydraulic radius, slope of the energy line, S minus S naught, delta E, and delta X. So we have to find this value, that is delta X. First of all, when you are at this section, that is section 1.1, you can see that this is section 1.1. Okay, 0.9 meter, section 1.1. Now this is the single section, okay, for which you can find the velocity, that is 1.26. You can find the specific energy, but you cannot find the mean velocity. Why? Because this is the only single section. If you have two sections, that is section 1.1 and section 2.2, then you can find the mean velocity. But here this is the single section, so we can't find the mean velocity. Then we will find hydraulic radius, but we cannot find the mean hydraulic radius. We cannot find the slope of the energy line, because slope of the energy line, we need mean velocity and mean hydraulic radius. And so you cannot find all these terms. Now we will move towards the second depth of the flow. When you will come to this second depth of the flow, now you have two sections. You will take this as section 1.1 and you will take this as section 2.2. And now you can find all the values in this second column. When you will get all the values, you will get this value, delta X is equal to 202 meters, which shows you that the distance between these two depths of the flow is 202 meters. Okay, then you will move towards this depth of the flow, and now you will assume that this is section 1.1 and this is section 2.2. Okay, you have to deal these two depths of the flow, and now you will put all the values in this row, which is against the depth of the flow 0.80 meter, and in the end you will get this result 115.5 meters. So you can see that the distance between these two depths is 115.5 115.5 meter. Now you will move towards this depth of the flow, for which you will assume that this is section 1.1 and this is section 2.2. You will put all the values in the last row and you will get this result, 57.69 meters. So you can see that this is a very detailed figure which shows you initially for the difference of 0.05 meter you have this much horizontal distance. Then again for the same difference, that is 0.05 meter, you have this horizontal distance, and in the last you have this horizontal distance. So I already told you that smaller the intervals of the depth of the flow, more detailed will be your figure and more detailed will be the information of the horizontal distances. Well, it was asked to find the distance between 0.9 meter and 0.75 meter in the end. So what you have to do, you will add all these horizontal distances, 202 plus 115.5 plus 57.69, and that will be your result. Okay. Please note down that there is a difference in the horizontal, in the result of horizontal distance in method number 1 and method number 2. Why? Because method number 2 is most reliable. Okay, it is very detailed method, so you have to rely on method number 2. So there is a small difference between the horizontal distance in these two methods. So this must be your result. So it will be better to adopt this method whenever you are asked to find the horizontal distance between the two depths of the flow. So how we have solved the numerical problem? We have taken a short reach of the length, means a short segment of the length. We have divided it into different steps. You can see that this is step number 1, this is step number 2, and this is step number 3. We have divided the whole segment of the channel into different steps, and then we have carried out the computation step by step from one end of reach to the other end. First of all, from this end to this end, then from this end to this end, and then from this end to this end. That's why the method is known as step-by-step method or direct step method. Now comes to the definition. It was written as, this method is characterized by dividing the channel into short reaches. Short reaches means short segments, and carrying the computation step by step from one end of reach to the other end. ठीक है, आप सबसे पहले अपने चैनल को स्मॉल सेगमेंट्स में डिवाइड करते हैं और फिर आप स्टेप बाय स्टेप कैलकुलेशंस करते हैं एक एंड से दूसरे एंड तक, एंड दिस इज हाउ यू फाइंड द हॉरिजॉन्टल डिस्टेंस. दिस इज नोन एज द स्टेप बाय स्टेप मेथड. Okay, so remember the final result of this equation, that is equation number 3, because we are going to discuss it in our next class, or to draw the water surface profiles. Okay, so this is all about this method. You have to solve example number 11.4 of your Franzini book. The problem is already solved. You have to solve this problem again and match the results with your book. And also you have to fill this table. ठीक है, इस टेबल को खुद ही fill करें और देखें कि आप in the end ये results आपको मिलते हैं या नहीं मिलते. And then we can discuss it in the next class if you have any kind of confusion. Okay. This is the second topic of this lecture, that is the hydraulic jump. Okay, hydraulic jump is actually an example of the rapidly varied flow. Okay, remember direct step method was for the gradually varied flow, and this is hydraulic jump, which is related to the rapidly varied flow. Definition: when a rapid change in the depth of flow is from a low stage to a high stage. Stage means depth of the flow or elevation. When a rapid change in the depth of flow is from a low stage to a high stage, the result is usually an abrupt rise of water surface. This local phenomena is known as hydraulic jump. We know that hydraulic jump occurs when the velocity of flow is high. In case of when the velocity of the flow is high and hydraulic jump occurs, what happens? After hydraulic jump, the depth of the flow always increases. So there is a very rapid change in the depth of the flow, unlike gradually varied flow. Here are some examples of the occurrence of the hydraulic jump. Number one, when slope changes from steep to mild. You can see in the figure that this is a steep slope and this is a mild slope. On a steep slope, the depth of the flow is smaller and velocity is high. At this point, when the slope changes, then there is an abrupt stoppage. There is an abrupt stoppage, or there is an abrupt break to the high velocity of the flow, due to which the hydraulic jump occurs, and you can see the depth of the flow increases. Okay, so this is a very short distance where the hydraulic jump occurs. You can see that this is the depth of flow before hydraulic jump, which is small, and this is the depth of the flow just after hydraulic jump, which is high. So there is a rapid change in the depth of the flow. That's why we say that hydraulic jump is an example of the rapidly varied flow. Similarly, if, for example, this is a steep slope of a channel where you have an obstruction, any kind of obstruction, so what will happen again? The flow is coming with a very high velocity and low depth of the flow, but due to the obstruction, it gets a break, and due to this break, the hydraulic jump occurs and the depth of the flow increases. So again, you can see that in a very short time, or you can say for a very short horizontal distance, the depth of the flow increases and the hydraulic jump occurs. Number 3 point, you are unable to understand it at this point. You will be able to understand it in the next class when we will discuss the water surface profiles. Well, it is written that hydraulic jump occurs for H3H2 combination, A3A2 combination, and M3M2 combinations. What are the H2H3, A2A3, and M2M3? These are actually the water surface profiles, different types of the water surface profiles, and where hydraulic jump occurs. So we will discuss all these water surface profiles in our next class, and then you will be able to understand that how the hydraulic jump occurs for these water surface profiles. So leave the explanation of this point for a moment. Okay, this is the mathematical. Now we have to derive the mathematical expression for some parameters of the hydraulic jump. Here you can see that what is the figure? It is hydraulic jump on horizontal bed following a spillway. Okay, this is horizontal bed, not actually horizontal bed. The bed is very mild. Okay, so you can assume that it is a horizontal bed. The slope of the channel bed is very small. So you can see that here we have a kind of an obstruction or a dam from where the water is coming, and you can see that the water is coming with a very high velocity and low depth of the flow. Okay, when it comes to the channel where the slope is horizontal or where the slope is very mild, what happens? It gets a sudden break. Okay, high velocity of flow gets a sudden break, due to which the hydraulic jump occurs, and after this the depth of the flow increases. So you can see that this is y1. Y1 is the depth of the flow before hydraulic jump, and y2 is the depth of the flow after hydraulic jump. So there is an abrupt change in the depth of the flow for a very small horizontal distance. Horizontal distance कितना आपके पास? आप देखिए, हाइड्रोलिक जंप यहाँ से शुरू हो रहा है और यहाँ पे खत्म हो रहा है. तो ये आपके पास छोटा सा स्मॉल हॉरिजॉन्टल डिस्टेंस है, लेकिन आपके पास डेप्थ ऑफ द फ्लो में जो है एक अप्रिशिएबल चेंज आया है. दिस इज नोन एज द रैपिडली वैरिड फ्लो. Okay, here you can see that the depth of the flow is very small and velocity head is very large. Here you can see that the depth of the flow is very large and the velocity head is very small, and this is the head loss. To derive the mathematical expression, first of all, we have to make some assumptions. Number one, the flow is steady, non-uniform. Number two, channel bed has zero or mild slope. And number three, the channel bed has zero slope, okay, zero or mild slope. Therefore, we will not consider the effect of the gravity. We are going to ignore the gravity effect for this derivation. Okay. And number 3, the friction forces acting are negligible because of the short length of the channel involved. Obviously, there are the friction forces along the bed of the channel, but you can see that hydraulic jump occurs for a very small distance. I already told you that hydraulic jump start here and ends here. So this is the small horizontal distance involved for which we can ignore the friction losses. So these are the two important assumptions. Number 1, we are going to neglect the effect of the gravity, and number 2, we are going to neglect the effect of the friction forces. Now, first of all, we will find the expression for the conjugate depths. What are the conjugate depths? These are the y1 and y2. That is the depth of flow before hydraulic jump and the depth of the flow after hydraulic jump. So, according to the impulse momentum principle, which you have already studied in your fluid mechanics 2 course, you have already studied these impulse momentum principle. Well, I have again derived the equation for the impulse momentum principle, impulse momentum. So delta F is equal to outflow minus inflow, and then you will put all these equations. You can check it by yourself. Okay, and you can check it by yourself. The equation is quite simple. You have to derive it by yourself. In case of any problem, we can discuss it in our next class. Here, I just want to tell you, here you can see that this is square of y1 minus square of y2. We have already studied a formula in our 9th or 10th grade that a square minus b square is equal to a minus b into a plus b. So this is the same formula. You can see y1 minus y2 into y1 plus y2. And the other equation is quite simple. You can do it by yourself. Okay, in the end, you will get these results. This is the depth of the equation for the depth of the flow before hydraulic jump. Y1 is equal to y2 divided by 2 minus 1 plus under root of 1 plus 8 square of unit discharge divided by g into cube of y2. And this is the expression for the depth of the flow after hydraulic jump. So you have to memorize these two formulas for solving the numerical problems. And also we can simplify these equations further. We know that, okay, remember that these are the equations and this is the derivation for the rectangular channel. Okay, we know that for rectangular channel, Froude number is equal to V divided by under root of GY. Taking the square on both sides and making it further simplify, what we get, square of Froude number is equal to square of Q divided by G into cube of Y. So we can put these value in equation number 1 and 2. Why? Because you can see here we have again square of Q divided by G into cube of Y1. So we can put the value of this equation number 3 in equation number 1 and 2, and you will get these results. That is y1 is equal to y2 divided by 2 minus 1 plus under root of 1 plus 8 into square of the Froude number. So these are the equations for y1 and y2, where you can see that what is y1, what is y1? It is known as the initial depth or depth of flow before hydraulic jump, and y2 is known as the sequent depth or depth of flow after hydraulic jump. Okay, and together y1 and y2 are together known as the conjugate depths. Okay, y1 and y2 are known as the conjugate depths, otherwise they have their different titles. Okay, similarly, if you have to find the height of the hydraulic jump, it is quite simple. y2 minus y1 is the height. Length of the hydraulic jump is equal to 3 to 6 times of the y2. Loss of energy is denoted by head loss or delta E, and you have two equations for this. You can use this equation E1 minus E2, or you can use this equation y2 minus y1 whole cube divided by 4 into y1 into y2. If you have to find the power loss, then you have these two formulas. power loss in watt and power loss in horsepower. And here you will take the value of gamma as 9810 Newton per cubic meter, or simply 9.81 kilonewton per cubic meter. Actually, this is the formula for the SI system. Similarly, if you have to find the percentage loss in energy, how much energy is lost due to the hydraulic jump, we have already seen in the figure that energy is lost. What is the energy loss? Again, we have these equations: delta E divided by E1 into 100, or HL divided by E1 into 100. So we can find the percentage loss in energy. This is problem number 11.83 from your Franzini book. It is given that there is a rectangular channel for which the depth of the flow is 0.3 meter and the width of the channel is 3 meter. Discharge is given and Y1 is given. And it has been asked that what will be the depth of the flow after hydraulic jump. We have to find the value of Y2. We have to find the head loss and the power loss. Okay, so we have already developed all the equations. The equations are quite simple. You can see that this is the equation for Y2. Putting all the values, you will get the value of Y2 is equal to 1.41 meter. You can see that what Y1 is 0.3 meter and Y2 is 1.41 meter. And this whole change in the depth of the flow is for a very, very small horizontal distance. That's why it is known as the rapidly varied flow. Okay, for head loss, we have developed two equations. You can use this equation, or that is Y2 minus Y1 whole cube divided by 4 into Y1 into Y2, or you can use this equation E1 minus E2, where E is the specific energy. So you have to find the value of a specific energy at before hydraulic jump and specific energy after hydraulic jump. This is quite, you can see, this is quite a little bit long equation, and you have to find more value, so it will be better to use this equation. Well, it is up to you. You will get the same result, 0.81 meter and 0.81 meter. So this is the head loss. Okay, and the last one is to find the power loss. Power loss is equal to gamma into Q into head loss. So power loss is 44.74 kilowatt. So this was all about the hydraulic jump and today's lecture. Only one thing is left, that what is the importance of the hydraulic jump. Hydraulic jump is used to dissipate the destructive energy of the high velocity flow. Just imagine that there is a high velocity flow in a channel. What will be happening? The high velocity of flow is responsible for the sedimentation of the channel, for the erosion of the channel bed. So most of the time, what we do in order to avoid the erosion of the channel bed, we make some means to produce a hydraulic jump, because we know that after hydraulic jump, the depth of the flow will be increased and its velocity will be decreased. And there will be no more sedimentation or no more erosion of the channel bed. So we say that because of the hydraulic jump, the destructive energy of the high velocity of flow is dissipated. Okay. Other importance is this, that due to hydraulic jump, we can raise the level of water. You can see that the depth of flow after hydraulic jump is appreciably high. So if you want to divert water from a channel towards your irrigation system or for drinking purposes, etc., what you have to do, you have to produce the hydraulic jump in a high velocity flow channel, because once you produce the hydraulic jump, the level of water will increase, and then you will be able to divert it towards the irrigation system or any other for any other purpose. Okay. Number 3, sometimes for the purification of water, if you have to add chemicals in a channel, then where to put that chemicals? You have to put the chemicals in the hydraulic jump. Hydraulic jump is a kind of the mixer, and it will help you the proper mixing of the chemicals, and it will help you in purifying the water in the whole channel. Okay, so there can be some other also importances. You can search it by yourself. There are too much importances. There are too much significances of the hydraulic jump, and this was all about the today's lecture.